Welcome to The Becks, a podcast that explores multimedia horror with hosts Becky and Sydney. Join us as we talk about movies, books, video games, music, and much, much more.
Thank you for joining us. My name is Sydney Rebecca.
And I'm Rebecca Snow.
And we're the Becks. This week, we're talking about A Girl Walks Home Alone at Night. And if we have time, we're also going to be talking about The Vampyre by John Polidori. So.
Yes.
She was just giving me a hard time about the length of my notes on Google Docs.
She has so many notes, and I'm just like, oh my. Anyway.
I have a lot to say.
This is true. She has a lot to say. So it's probably going to be the Sydney episode today, because I don't know that I have a lot to say. But that's all right.
Yeah, you didn't like the movie as much as I did.
Yeah. I mean, I liked it. But, yeah, it wasn't like I was like, whoa, this is a great movie. And, yeah, so.
I wanted to kind of start it off by tackling something that neither of us had seen and maybe is a little bit more underground. I thought it would be interesting, especially if our listeners have watched it and what their thoughts are.
Yeah, because we are starting Vampire Month here for February, so.
I remember when this movie first came out, it was on Netflix. That's where I first saw it, and I thought the premise was really interesting. It wasn't until, I started looking into vampire IP that I came across it, and the internet said that it had quite the cult following, so, and I hadn't known anybody that had talked about it, so, not that I really take a lot of stock in what people on the internet say about things, but, enough people liked it that I wanted to talk about it. So it came out in 2014. It was filmed in California, despite being a foreign language film. It's actually filmed in Persian, and it takes place in the fictional city of Iran called Bad City. It's filmed in black and white, directed by Anna Lily Amirpour. I'm sorry if I'm butchering that name. The director herself is Iranian American, so she has that connection there. And I think it's pretty clear through the whole movie that there's kind of a duplicity to it, as far as like Western and Eastern, because the main character has a very James Dean-esque look to him.
Yes, he does.
He's handsome. He
is a handsome little cutie. Yep.
So when you hear the name "A Girl Walks Home Alone at Night," what was your initial thought?
That it would be a young girl walking home alone at night and possibly attacked by a vampire. Since it was supposed to be a vampire film. I think that's what I initially thought. Did not expect to see a roller skating female vampire. But Skateboarding, sorry. Yeah. I don't know why I said roller skating. Yes, skateboarding. It was pretty cool, though. I enjoyed that part of it.
Yeah, it's very subversive, like, right off the bat. The main character is never named.
That's right, she isn't.
Yeah.
I had to think. I'm like, wait, because... no.
The main male character, Arash, he actually is like, I don't even know your name. And she still never tells him.
Yeah, that's the scene I thought about when you said that. I'm like, wait, she never does say it. Okay.
All right, so the movie opens up, Arash, the main male character. He's smoking outside, looking cool. And he just picks up this cat and starts walking home. Like, it's just like I guess it's a stray cat. It's meant to be a stray cat.
Yeah, he, climbed through a hole in that wooden fence.
Yeah.
And just picked the cat up and put it in his car, and away they went.
And this cat was extremely well-behaved and fat.
Yes, that's the first thing I said was, wow, look at that fat cat.
So I think maybe he just stole somebody's cat, to be honest.
Very well could be.
And I will say, the whole movie, I was, really scared that something was going to happen to the cat. Because there are a couple of times where you're like, oh my god, the cat's about to get it.
Yeah.
But he never does, which is very nice. We don't like movies where the dog or cat dies.
No, we don't.
Despite my love for Bird Box. That's maybe a notable exception. But anyway, so Arash is the main character. His father's name is Hussein. He is pretty useless as an individual. Yeah. And it is explained through the plot of the movie that he was overtaken by grief when his wife, Arash's mother, passed away, and he went to drugs, doesn't work, owes a drug dealer lots of money, and enjoys the company of whores, as he so charmingly points out at some point in the movie. movie. So there's another character that we're introduced to named Saeed. He is the drug dealer. He's also revealed to be a pimp. He is the just scum of the earth.
I don't mean to laugh, but yeah.
he has, like, really cringy tattoos. Like, he has sex on his throat.
On his neck. He has Pac-Man on his... Is that on the other side of his neck?
I think so.
Yeah.
He also, when I was looking up notes...
Notes, lots and lots of notes.
When I was looking up, apparently one of the words that he has tattooed, like, on his hairline is Persian or Arabic for pimp. So he's that too. Well, that makes sense. Just announced to the world. Very, very charming guy. So he obviously deals drugs to Arash's father, and Hussein owes him a lot of money, and he also... The other main character in the movie is Atty, and she's a sex worker who works for Saeed and used to be a favorite of Hussein. So I guess the main premise of this movie is, again, back to the subversion. You think when you see the girl, like, because she looks very innocent, she obviously looks very young, and she leans into that for sure. She wears something called and I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing this right because Google told me 2 different pronunciations. So if somebody knows the correct way to say it, I would love to be corrected. It's a chador, which is a type of veiling commonly used in Middle Eastern countries. And it covers her hair and kind of cloaks her. It doesn't cover the front, which I'm not sure if that's common. The ones that I saw when I looked it up, it seemed like it was more like full body. But hers was almost like it covered her hair and was like a cape, which is kind of superhero-y, especially when she was kind of skateboarding along. Yeah. And it was, flying behind her. I don't know if that was on purpose. I mean, I would say there's comic book, like, connotations in this movie, especially because of the black and white. And Bad City, I feel like, is kind of a reference to Sin City. Yeah.
Even the art for, like, the movie is kind of cartoony, maybe... Yeah, more than, I don't know. Yeah, I could see it being more comic book than it would be.
The cover art of the movie is very cool.
Yeah.
And that's part of the reason why I wanted to talk about it. It just intrigued me. So, again, in the beginning of the movie, Arash is approached by a child and is asked for money. And Arash is like, I don't have any money. And Arash has, like, a very fancy car.
Yeah, his car is super cool.
And the kid's like, with a car like that, yeah, you have money. And he makes a point of saying, like, do you know how many days I worked for that car? And it was like, he was very specific with it. It was like 2,592 or something. So, like, a very long time he worked for this car, which is clear because he doesn't live in, like, a fancy house. Again, his dad doesn't work. His mom's dead. So he's, like, the sole supporter of the family. And he just does, like, landscaping or handyman work. It's not really, they don't give him official job title. It's just that he like tries to fix a TV for someone at some point, and he does landscaping work, like trimming bushes and stuff.
It's kind of like a jack of all trades.
Yeah.
Like handyman.
Well, Saeed, the drug dealer, comes to collect money, and Arash obviously doesn't have it, and so Saeed ends up taking his car.
And it's money that's owed by his father, not by him, but because they share a home, he takes whatever he can.
Yeah, and he kind of just takes it, like, even though earlier in the movie, again, he said, like, he worked really hard for the car, like, he's obviously not pleased. It's not like he totally rolls over, but he just lets it happen, I think because he's scared of Saeed.
Yeah.
And the connections he has. I mean, he's obviously kind of a dangerous person. This is one of the times where you think the cat's gonna get it, because Saeed picks up the cat and is like, what's the cat's name?
I thought for sure he was gonna, like, snap the cat's neck or something like that. I was like, no, and then he just put it down. I'm like, whew, okay,
yeah, it was a very relieving moment, and I think, like, that's the type of power and charisma that this person has, even though he's obviously super scummy, and I would probably laugh at him in his face if I ever came across him personally. Probably to my death. But
I agree.
He's just scummy. I don't know.
The whole sex tattoo on the front of his neck, right on his throat. And he's just creepy. He's creepy. Thinks he's sexy and,
Yeah. So, the girl sees Arash later on when she goes home with the pimp. But before that happens, Saeed meets up with one of his sex workers, Atty. And she's handing over money to him, and she's, explaining that she knows it's short, but she still wants her cut, and he's refusing to give it to her. And he's, really mean to her. He's like, you're getting so old. And it's revealed that she's 30.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which,
I guess, maybe it is old for a sex worker. I don't know anything about that industry. But it still was like, dude. And then he also is like, don't you want kids? Isn't that what women want? Don't they want to settle down with kids? And
yeah. Yeah, he was trying to,
just a total chauvinist. And then, he, kind of coerces her into doing a sexual act for him. But then he realizes that they're being watched, and he's like, okay, you can fuck off now. He drags her out by her hair.
Yeah, he was totally vicious to her.
And the whole time the girl is seeing this from the shadows, they actually, they see her once, but then she disappears. And
he kind of panics when he saw her.
Yeah.
So...
Which I do want to mention real quick, there are no, authority figures in this movie at all. There's never any mention of the police or cops or a militia or anything. It's, totally lawless, it seems like. So he starts going home, and she follows him home, and he's, totally turned on by it, which is hilarious, because she's just staring at him, being creepy.
Yeah, she's very good at... She's got these big, beautiful eyes, but she just stares. Total blank stare.
And he's like, yeah, I want to take you home. So he invites her in, this strange woman that he's never met. And...
She doesn't speak to him. Very few words. Very few words.
Not once. And
I'm like, what is happening? And he's all, even more turned on at the fact that she's not speaking.
Yeah, so he's just doing drugs, and he puts on music and starts dancing, which was so funny. Oh my god,
the dancing was hilarious. If any man danced like that in front of me, he would not be getting lucky. I'm telling you right now.
I'd be wiping tears from my eyes. And again, she's not dancing; she's just staring
at him,
and
just staring.
I don't know, he did a couple lines of coke before. He thought he was the hottest shit on the planet.
And I had at that point where she was just staring at him when he was dancing, he was trying to grind right up on her dancing.
Yeah.
And she just stared at him, and I'm like, don't you think if someone was just standing in your home, not speaking, and just staring at you awkwardly like that you would be like, please leave. This is weird. But no, he just dances.
Yeah, he did not. No. He was not. He was seeing what he wanted to see.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Again, because he's a chauvinist and thinks that everybody wants him. So.
Yeah. So he sticks his finger in her mouth.
Oh, God.
And
he had done this to
Atty before. Yes. Yeah.
So this was something we'd already seen, and yeah.
And instead of sucking on it Atty had, the girl's fangs pop out. And instead of being alarmed or frightened or anything like that, he seems even more turned on by it, which is fair. Vampires are sexy.
So true.
But I'm sorry. I don't know. I feel if somebody had very sharp teeth pop out while my finger was in their mouth, I would remove the finger. Instead, he was yeah.
And she punctured his finger with her one fang, and it even more turned him on. He was like, oh, okay, here we go.
Yeah, it was kinky, sharp teeth, yeah. I guess, whatever.
Yeah.
Well, then she bites his finger off, and he's... Suddenly, that's too far for him.
He starts to scream like a small child.
Yeah, he falls backward and tries to crawl away, and that's when she pounces on him and kills him.
Yeah.
Which... My thought in this scene was, honestly, how... I don't know if you had this thought, but I was he probably tasted so gross. His skin was probably, salty and,
oily, and... Yeah, he was just gross. Yeah,
I don't... I was early on, you kind of get the sense that she's obviously... It's obvious that she's going after him because of the treatment of Atty, the sex worker that works for him. So there's obviously a vigilante-ish lean to it. You are not sorry to see this character go.
No, not in the slightest. He was just not a nice character.
Yeah.
No, not a good human
So
being.
she, like, robs him of all of his, like, jewelry and stuff and then leaves. And on her way out, that's when she runs into Arash. Now, Arash had a client who had these beautiful, like, diamond earrings, and he stole them. And he was going to give them as payment to Saeed so he could get his car back. So Arash, she just leaves the door unlocked when she's leaving. They kind of, like, make heavy eye contact, and she just leaves.
Yeah.
And he goes in.
Yeah, they just stand there staring at each other for like 2 minutes or something. I was like, okay.
So he goes in, he kind of registers that there's a dead body, and just moves on with his life. He's like, alright, well, that's one problem solved. I'll just grab my keys, I'll grab the money, I'll grab the drugs, and just peace out.
Yeah. Yeah.
Arash is not the brightest bulb in the socket.
No.
Because he legitimately does not pin the murder on the girl.
No.
At any point.
She literally walked out of this guy's house, right up to his gate, stared him in the eyes, and then left, and he walks in and the guy's dead. But maybe because she looked so innocent, like he didn't think that she could do something
Surely
like that.
capable of it.
Yeah.
I mean, she does. That's an advantage that she takes every chance.
Yeah.
So, Arash cuts his dad off cold turkey. I don't know how he explains this to his dad. It happens off screen. His dad starts to go through wicked withdrawals. Arash is happy because he has his car back. He actually goes to a party dressed as Dracula. It's like a costume party that his client that he stole from, like, mentioned to him. And they're like, oh, like, I heard that you had drugs. And he's like, I do. Well, they end up talking him into taking drugs himself, and he had never done drugs before. It was very obvious.
I was super surprised he did that, but
he was pressured into it.
Yeah, this girl that he actually, the one that you mentioned previously that he was fixing the TV for.
Yeah, she stole from.
Yeah, she kind of pushed it. And I think because she had money and stuff, he kind of wanted to be accepted into that group.
Yes, which he tried. I think they say that it was ecstasy specifically. He tried to kiss her, and she was like, no.
Yeah.
So he leaves the party and gets super lost because he's just drugged up on drugs that he never had before. Which, if you're gonna be stupid and just take drugs that you've never taken before, you should make sure that you have a friend who knows how to take care of you.
Yeah.
He did not have anybody.
No, there was nobody.
He's actually quite isolated the whole movie.
Yeah.
It was clear that he didn't have any real connections besides his father, who he resented.
Yeah, definitely.
So, when he's wandering around lost, he actually comes across the girl, and he's like, oh, I'm Dracula, and he's like, I'm sorry if I'm scaring you, and she's like, she's just staring at him like...
He, like, literally walks right up to her and is like, I'm Dracula. It's like, you just walked up to a vampire and just told her that you're Dracula. Okay, buddy.
It's actually a very cute moment, and he's just like, I have no idea where I am, and she's like, well, you're in Bad City, and he's like,
I live in Bad City.
Like, all right, buddy, good for you.
Yeah.
And he's like, I just need to sit down. And he just sits down right on the sidewalk.
Yeah, she's like, you can't sit down here. You have to get up. And he's like, I can't. So then she
puts him on a skateboard and rolls.
I laughed so hard at that part. I giggled. I thought that was super cute.
Yeah, it was super cute. And they get back to her place, and she puts on some music, and he tries to get her to talk. She's not forthcoming at all.
No.
Because again, he doesn't even know her name. He introduced himself, but she didn't say anything, and she's just quiet. She puts music on. She kind of sways. Her love of music is shown pretty early on in the movie. It's one of the only looks into her personality that we get besides the vigilantism that she partakes in. And they actually share a very intimate scene, which this is my favorite part of the movie. They don't have sex. They don't kiss. They just kind of sway to the music. They embrace. She obviously thinks about biting him because she's nosing at his throat. But she ultimately decides not to. She just turns away and they just kind of hug. And he she tells him that she's done really bad things. And I'm pretty sure he's still high at this point, so he's not retaining anything. But he's like, I've done bad things too. And the scene ends, and I don't know, there's just something really nice about non-sexual intimacy. Like, it just was like, it was a really good scene.
No, it really was. Because you really weren't sure, too. There was a lot of build-up.
Yeah.
So it took him a long time to get close enough to her while she was dancing. He came up behind her.
Very slow.
Yeah, it was a very slow, intense scene. Like, you didn't know if she was going to turn on him and bite him or if... And then she kind of just melted into him and they had that embrace. So it was, yeah. It was like a true attraction between two people where it doesn't have to get physical, sexual.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And it humanizes her a bit.
Yeah, definitely.
Because before this point, we don't really get that. You know, she killed the man, took his jewels, left.
Yep.
Also, how she got the skateboard was by threatening the child.
Oh, yeah. I was so scared of that poor kid.
Arash was harassed by earlier for begging for money. She was like, you need to be a good boy. Are you a good boy? And he's like, yes. And she's like, don't lie to me. I'll feed your eyeballs to the dogs.
No one will ever know.
Yeah. She kind of gets this, like, growl in her voice, too, when she does it. It was pretty freaky. It was a good scene, too. But that's how she gets the skateboard.
Well, she scared him straight.
Yep,
he ran away and left his skateboard behind.
Yep, he was scared straight. We don't really see him until close to the end of the movie, so he obviously is staying out of trouble. Okay, so... The other thing is, like, again, like, her skateboarding and wearing the chador, it's very cute. Like, they don't ever say or imply what her age is or anything like that. One thing I also found interesting is we do only see her at night, which is obviously her preferred hunting time, but we don't have, like, there's no other part of the vampire mythos that we see, like, the garlic or the holy symbols or the sun. So we don't know if any of that affects her. Just that that's her preferred time to go out and she drinks blood. It doesn't
seem like, I mean, you get a couple instances where people are like a little startled by her being there, but there's no like fear. Like, you know, in a lot of vampire movies where they know, like they feel that that's like the dark, you know, essence of a person, or they feel that it's a vampire. You never get that kind of, even when she shows her fangs to the drug dealer, he doesn't even get scared.
Nope.
And so there's not that fear, it seemed, of the vampire part.
No. And I think it has to do with like her visage that she just totally embraces. That she's just an innocent girl. And there wouldn't be anything to fear.
And she is just a tiny thing. She's thin and cute and not real tall, and so yeah, she's just this tiny little girl, you know.
Very unassuming. The creepiest thing about her is her propensity to stare.
Yes, that is super creepy. I would be like, listen, lady, you need to go because you're creeping me out.
Yeah. So Arash at this point is totally smitten with the girl. He goes home one day and his father is totally hallucinating. It's obviously like he's in the throes of a super bad withdrawal at this point. He's like knocking down all the pictures of his wife and he's screaming at the cat. This is another moment where you think he's gonna like kick the cat or throw something at the cat because he says that the cat has the eyes of his deceased wife, and he yells at Arash when he comes in accusing him of not loving him and all this shit. And Arash is like, you know what, you can get the fuck out and you can take all these drugs. He pulls them out of his pocket. He gives him a bunch of heroin. He's like, you can take these drugs. You can have your medicine. Because that's a thing that Hussein says early on, that he needs his medicine. He gets his medicine from Saeed. It's not drugs or heroin or whatever. Yeah. And he's like, and you can take the fucking cat, too. Which I was so mad at him for.
I was mad at him, too. I don't want it anymore. I was like, you're an ass, dude. That made me upset.
Yeah, I was not impressed. Because that cat was so sweet the whole time. He just loved being picked up. Very tolerant of it. It's just a sweet, stupid little face.
Yeah. Never hissed at anybody. Never got defensive. Anybody could pick him up.
Yeah.
This big, fluffy, fat cat. So cute.
Just a good little guy.
Yeah.
And what I found funnier was that even after, like, accusing the cat of having his dead wife's eyes and, like, staring at him accusingly, he does just take the cat. Like, very gently. He takes the drugs, he takes the cats.
Yeah.
He goes out. And Hussein immediately starts doing drugs, and he seeks out his favorite sex worker, Atty. And at this point, he's like telling Atty, like, oh, dance for me, and like, let's be together. And Atty at this point says no, like she starts to resist, and he doesn't like that. He tries to force himself on her. And the girl actually hears this from where she is outside on the street, and she goes up and she kills Hussein. And Atty's like, well, let's dispose of the body. It's all very matter of fact.
At one point we didn't mention too, there is like a pit of bodies, like a burial pit.
Yeah.
It's just there. No one says anything about it. It is literally just a big, huge area that they throw bodies into.
Yeah.
So
it's where Arash puts Saeed's body, actually. Yeah. And again, there's no evidence of police or anything.
No, it's right
like
out in
that.
the open. There's just dead bodies, a whole bunch of them.
Yeah.
So, apparently that's how you dispose of them.
And Hussein had taken the cat with him to Atty's house, by the way, which I find kind of hilarious. I mean, I'm glad he didn't just leave the cat somewhere outside or whatever, but... So instead of taking the body to the ditch that we spoke of just now, they actually just leave him, like, in an alley. I think because they wanted to make it look like maybe he had just overdosed.
Yeah.
And the girl actually takes the cat. Atty's like, you need to take the cat. And she's like, okay. And she takes the cat back to her house. Well, Arash eventually, finds his dad's body. The boy, actually comes and gets him.
Yeah, he asked if he knew if he had heard or seen anything about his father. He asked the kid.
Yeah, and Arash is obviously understandably upset that his father died, and he's like, you know what, we need to get out of here, like, I can't stay here anymore. So he goes to the girl's house and tells her, like, hey, we need to leave. And I was like, I expected her to be like, no.
Yeah.
So I was actually very surprised that she, like, actually acquiesced and started packing a bag. And then the cat comes out from, another part of the house, and Arash sees it. And he obviously makes the connection, like, why does she have my old cat?
Yeah.
And my dad's dead. Again, he had seen her leave Saeed's house and immediately went up and saw that Saeed was dead. So I don't know.
I never thought anything about that.
Yeah.
But the cat.
Or, like, I guess maybe he was just, like, maybe he rationalized it. Like, oh, it's fine. Like, Saeed deserved it, which, fair.
Yeah.
And so when it was his dad, it was different. But he doesn't say anything. He doesn't, like, confront her or anything. They pack up the shit and they start to drive away. The cat is in the back window, just chilling. And he actually, he pulls over and he gets out and he's, like, pacing and he's obviously kind of upset. The girl just stays in the car and stares at him.
Yeah, at that point I thought he might actually, like, confront her about his dad's death. I thought that's what was going to happen.
Yeah.
Because they seemed to be out in the middle of nowhere. So I didn't know if he was going to kick her out, if he was going to say something. He was pretty intense. He was pacing back and forth.
Yeah. But what ends up happening, actually, is he just gets back in the car and they drive off.
Well, he reaches over and gets a cassette tape and puts the cassette tape in the player and starts the music. And then that was the end.
Yeah, that was the end of the movie. When I was looking up articles and stuff, a lot of people were like, "Oh, it's a really feminist movie," but the director herself said that that wasn't really the point. She just wanted to tell an interesting story. But it's hard to look at it without that lens because it's obviously, like, it's very subversive in nature. A girl walks home alone at night, you think that she's going to be the one that's going to be attacked.
Yeah.
That's going to be the defenseless one that becomes the victim. When, in fact, she's not the victim at all. She's the monster that people should be fearing. And, everything from, the chador to the cute striped shirt that she wears to
the Madonna poster on the wall,
and the music that she listens to. She brings up Lionel Richie at one point as the last thing that she had listened to. And Arash actually gives her the diamond earrings that he stole, and she wears those, and they're little diamond flowers.
He had to pierce her ears.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
That was a little intense because when he pierced the first one, it hurt her.
And her fangs came out. But he was
turned
oblivious.
away.
He was oblivious.
Yeah, he totally was.
So all in all, I found it to be a very interesting movie. It wasn't like anything I had seen before, and I think that's why I liked it so much.
Yeah.
And it's always interesting to see things from a different lens. Like, obviously we think about vampires as being kind of adopted by the West and popularized by the West, but the legends and stuff, they came from the East originally. So it's like seeing it told from someone who has that, you know, she's part Arabic, the director was. I just thought it brought something different to the table.
Yeah, it was a good movie. I don't know why I wasn't like super impressed by it. I did enjoy it. There were a lot of cute parts and a lot of definitely a different take on vampires. So I liked that about it. I did like that she was righting wrongs. Mm-hmm. That part I was like, well, yeah, good for her.
Yeah, obviously there was nobody. Doesn't seem like there's a judicial system at all. So it's like, just it's a bad city. Bad city.
Yep.
So yeah, you know, it wasn't overtly sexual like we think vampires are.
No.
There were sexual things that happened in the movie,
yes.
But that wasn't the focus. There wasn't a lot of gore, not a lot of blood at all, actually.
No, with being filmed in black and white, too, that really wasn't a huge thing. But even when she killed people, like, you didn't see big pools of blood everywhere or anything like that.
No.
Definitely worth a watch.
Yeah.
Gives a whole new perspective on different things.
So next I want to talk about The Vampyre by John Polidori. Now, I had mentioned this in the Frankenstein episode. This was a product of the little romantic writers retreat that Mary Shelley, Percy Shelley, John Polidori, and Lord Byron did. What I didn't know was that Lord Byron and John Polidori had like a little rivalry going on. Because interestingly enough, when I was researching this story, Lord Byron was actually the one who had said at the writers' retreat his story was the vampire story. John Polidori had done a story about this lady who had her head like turned into a flaming skull because she was looking through a door key and she shouldn't have been.
Oh.
So she kind of paid the price for being nosy. But Lord Byron never finished the story, and John Polidori was kind of intrigued by it, so he decided that he wanted to finish it. So it's like 40 pages ebook. It's like 19 pages in real life. It did not get the full-length novel treatment that Frankenstein did. It's not surprising. It didn't have a lot of meat to it, but it is considered to be the predecessor or kind of the origin of the romantic vampire. So that's why I wanted to read it, because obviously it cannot be overstated how romantic and attractive vampires have become since its inception in 1819. You know, we're in 2024 now, and sexy vampires still have no sign of disappearing from media. So
this is true.
So the main character in the story is Aubrey, and he is kind of a romantic person. He's kind of snobby. He's very naive. And he meets someone named Lord Ruthven, who is the vampire in this case. And he's very mysterious. Ruthven kind of ingratiates himself into the higher, richer parts of society right away. People are very intrigued by him. Married women are very intrigued by him. But his tastes are like virginal girls.
Oh.
Because of course they are. So he could have his pick of any woman he wanted, but he targets the young and the naive and the innocent. And this is something that Aubrey does not enjoy about Lord Ruthven. They actually fight about it and they stop being friends for a time. Now, Aubrey goes and studies Greek architecture in Greece. And while he's there, he falls in love with an innkeeper's daughter who he kind of laments about how she's uneducated and simple, and how, even though he loves her, he can never marry her.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, it's a real charmer, that. Yeah. I mean, I know it's just another product.
I love her, but whatever. She's just too poor for me.
Yeah, she's just poor and stupid. But one thing he learns from, her name is Ianthe, one thing he learns from her is the tale of the vampire, which is very popular in the area. Not just as a story, but they're scared. They have a healthy fear of vampires. They don't go out at night in certain areas of the woods. They treat it as a very real threat, which Aubrey kind of laughs about. And she's like, no, seriously, like, don't be stupid, you know, which he doesn't like. Well, she turns up dead.
Oh, no.
Yeah,
His dumb poor girlfriend.
Yep.
I mean that in the nicest way, but
I mean that in the nicest way.
That just bothers me.
So he's devastated by this, but who does he run into? Lord Ruthven.
Ah.
And he does not make the connection, which, for as, like, scathing as he is about the uneducated or whatever, this man is, like, freaking dumb.
No common sense?
No, not at all.
So highly educated, but dumb.
Yeah,
okay.
Which, you know, no surprise there. Honestly, it happens. It's more common than usual. True. So he doesn't make the connection. He actually reconnects with Lord Ruthven. He kind of forgives his friend for being the way he is.
A pervert?
Yeah.
Because that's pretty much young virginal girls.
Which
kind of a pervert.
Is fucked up. Can we talk about for a minute how, like, men forgive other men for shit that they have no business forgiving other men for? Like, if you find out that your friend is a pervert or a rapist or anything like that and you stay friends with him, you're able to let that go. You're a piece of shit.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I don't have anything good to say about you. Fucking at me. I don't care. So, they decide to travel together, and they actually come across, they, like, take a road that is literally, I don't know why they did this. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's the overconfidence of men or what, but they take this road that is, like, peppered with bandits and, like, tales of misfortune and stuff, and they're like, we'll be fine. Because they're the exception always.
So every sign that says wrong way, don't go here, they're like, hey, that again is the highly educated but no common sense.
Yes.
That's what that is.
So what happens? But they get besieged by bandits.
Oh my.
Yeah.
That wasn't foreseen.
Yeah, no one saw that coming. Lord Ruthven actually gets mortally wounded. He gets shot in the shoulder, hits an artery or something. And so he's dying. Aubrey can't get help to him in time. Lord Ruthven is like, you have to swear that you're not going to tell anybody about me for a year and a day. And Aubrey's like, okay. It's not a weird request at all, but sure.
Yeah.
And, it's his friend's dying request, so I guess I can get it a little bit. Like, he is dying. Like, are you really going to grill him about it? But at the same time, it's a weird thing to ask for.
Year and a day, all I can think about is when we toured the crypts, the cemeteries in New Orleans.
Yes.
And you have to leave the bodies in there for a year and a day before they push the bone or the dust, the dirt that's left afterwards because of the natural cremation. So when you said a year and a day, that's what I think.
Yeah, that's interesting. I didn't think about that at all. So yeah, for those who don't know, in Louisiana, in New Orleans specifically, they have to bury people above ground because it's below sea level, right? So if they dig, there's water. So they do above ground burials and they don't call them crypts specifically. Tombs, yeah. And the Catholic Church is against cremation. So the way that they got around that is the way that the tombs are built. The bodies kind of cook inside them.
They're basically natural ovens.
Yeah.
Because of the heat.
From the sun and, etc. And they, through, experimentation, like through looking in, they discovered that after about 366 days, the bones and flesh or whatever are decayed away and dry, and
they just basically become dirt, ash.
Yep.
In there.
So they push them
to the back,
and
put the next family member.
It's ready for the next family member.
But it's a year and a day. That's when we did the tour that they said. So when she said that, that's what triggered in my mind was a year and a day.
Yeah. So Aubrey is like, he's a bit upset by his friend's death. He actually, and he's still kind of recovering from my auntie dying, his dumb girlfriend. So he goes back home and spends some time with his sister and, tries to recover while he runs into Ruthven again. But this time he's an earl. He changed his identity.
Oh.
And, of course, Aubrey is bound by this oath not to tell people that, oh, this is Ruthven. Like, he can't say anything. Which I didn't glean whether it was, like, supernatural in nature or if Aubrey was maybe just, like...
He made this promise to his friend, so...
Yeah.
Deathbed promise, you have to keep it.
The thing was that this Earl was like, your sister's sexy.
Oh, no!
Yep. So they got an arranged marriage, and they were going to marry a year to the day that Lord Ruthven died.
Oh, no.
So he, Aubrey tried very hard to get his sister to, push the wedding day, and he got so upset that he fell into fits and fevers, which is a common thing for people back in the day, I guess, because remember Victor Frankenstein, it's like all he ever did was get upset and have a fever and languish in bed like a bitch. So Aubrey, the same thing happened to him, and Lord Ruthven, now an earl, kind of, would visit his bedside and just kind of smirk at him evilly.
Oh, boy.
So he tries to write a letter to his sister. I guess this is like a loophole because he's not saying it. I don't know. And he tries to, so he writes this letter. He tries to get it out. One of the servants, though, reads it and is like, this guy's fucking crazy.
Oh, no.
So he ends up, the letter ends up not being sent. And poor Aubrey dies of being distraught, I guess.
Oh. So you can just die from being distraught?
Well, okay. So I'm going to bring up one of the biggest bitches I've ever had about Star Wars, because this was going to happen at some point, okay? Anybody who knows me knows that I love Star Wars. People fucking eviscerated the prequels, specifically the last one, Return of the oh my gosh, Revenge of the Sith, because Padme dies, and one of the robots is like, oh, I think she died of a broken heart or whatever, which, first of all, it's a weird thing for a robot to say, but also that's not what happened. Fucking the Emperor used her life force to keep Darth Vader alive. That was the whole, anyway, okay, but, so, you know what, men were dying of broken hearts, or, fucking hysteria or whatever, long before women were, was where I was going with this.
There you go. But apparently broken heart syndrome is a real thing. I have read things about it, so.
This is true, but because of sexism, apparently only women die from it.
That's so untrue. Anyway.
So, the wedding goes through. Ruthven, now the Earl, marries Aubrey's sister. Which is... he kills her, obviously. He drinks all of her blood. Which I'm sorry.
He had to marry her to kill her? It
was all because he was being psychotic and mean to Aubrey. It was like
But his friend stood by him. Was he still mad because he turned his back on him for a while and the whole virgin thing?
Yeah, maybe.
So he was getting back at him for years ago?
He was a petty bitch, which I guess I can kind of respect, but at the same time, Aubrey's sister didn't do nothing.
Exactly.
It was all just to terrorize Aubrey, I guess, at the end of the day. But the ending line of this book is so funny. It's so dramatic. Okay, so it says, Lord Ruthven had disappeared, and Aubrey's sister had glutted the thirst of a vampire. And it's in all caps.
Oh my.
Yeah, vampire. And that's how the short story ends. So,
wow.
Yeah.
It's you're my friend, you're not my friend, you're my friend, I die, I marry your sister, I kill her. The end.
Yep. Yeah, there's not a lot of meat to it. Yeah. But again, this is widely held as the kind of the progenitor of the romantic vampire.
Which makes sense, because he could have any woman he wanted, and they were all attracted to him, and...
Yep. Huh. Because he was weird.
Yeah, but, yeah.
I guess weird isn't the right term. Unusual. Aubrey talks about how he had kind of this draw. His eyes were, curiously dead, and,
we know how women love the dead-eyed men.
Yeah, totally the most attractive thing ever.
True, though. Bad guys.
Yeah. He kind of was just lecherous the whole time. There was nothing, I don't know if it's because it's through Aubrey's lens, who he was obviously not attracted to Lord Ruthven at all, but he became his friend. But, like, even Aubrey thought he was scummy for going after virginal girls. Yeah. But again, he's like, I guess it's okay. I need a friend, so I guess it's okay. Like, my girlfriend just died, so I guess it's okay. My dumb girlfriend just died.
That I couldn't possibly ever marry because she wasn't smart and wasn't rich.
Yeah. So back to the rivalry with Lord Byron. So it was, like, fought over by scholars for a long time, like, if the Vampyre was actually written by John Polidori or if it was written by Lord Byron. And people thought that it was plagiarized for a long time because, again, Polidori and Byron had a very tense relationship. And, in fact, some parallels have been drawn between the characterization of Lord Ruthven and Byron himself. And there's something else, too. Let me look at it.
In her notes.
Yeah, I have lots of notes.
Her plethora of notes. I told you she has a lot of notes. Not kidding.
Okay, so I'll just read this. The debt that the Vampyre owes to Byron is hard to overstate. Polidori had not merely taken Byron's unfinished story as a basis, he had cast the author of that story as the protagonist or the antagonist. Lord Ruthven is a clear caricature of Lord Byron, with Aubrey, the naive young romantic. Perhaps it's self-deprecating portrayal of Polidori himself, parodying his own strained relationship with Byron. Even Ruthven's name has a Byronic connection. Lady Caroline Lamb, a former lover of Byron, had caricatured him under the same moniker in her 1816 novel Glenarvan. So, like, there's layers to this. People be petty.
Yeah, that's a little, yeah.
They just, like, wrote scathing caricatures of each other in their little short stories, I guess.
Just said it was, that's funny.
Yeah, I thought it was really funny.
I wonder if the world was a better place when you did it like that. Instead of just calling people out, you just wrote nasty little stories and got it all out in there.
Well, I mean, how much is a magazine serial? How different is that really from Twitter?
Very true. Very true, I guess.
Reaches I mean, if anything, Twitter X, I guess it's called now, it reaches more people faster. So,
yeah, sure.
Okay, so yeah, that's it for this episode. We are going to be talking about the Lost Boys next.
I'm so excited. I am, that generation. So, I love Lost Boys. It was one of my favorites back in the day. Still one of my favorites now. One of the best vampire movies ever.
It is very good. I actually watched it for the first time. I'm very ashamed of this. It took me so long to watch it. The end of last year. I don't know why it took me so long. I love movies like that. I love the era. I was going to say, that's very strange. But it was one that I had never gotten around to. But the vampires, the main vampire in The Lost Boys is very sexy.
Yes, he is. Anyway, we'll be talking more about that next week.
Yes. So thank you again so much for joining us. My name is Sydney Rebecca.
And I'm Rebecca Snow.
And we're the Becks.